Hello everybody, welcome to Pen Dev. Today we are going to continue part 2 of where we left off. In our previous video, we look at how to download and install Flask and Python on our computer, and we end up by creating a basic website using Flask and HTML. Okay, so today we are going to look at a very interesting topic, which is routing or route and views. I will continue again to understand what route and routing means in Flask, or route and URL pattern in Flask. And another thing we'll look at again is by creating views for different pages. So if I mean different pages, the pages will be like login and register. Okay, so the last thing that we'll look at before we end the video is by passing data from the back end here to the front end, which is the HTML. Okay, so now to proceed, now let's digest or let's understand what actually route means, because somebody might not understand, or somebody will ask what actually is route. So to give you a basic definition or basic meaning of route, routing in Flask is a mechanism that maps incoming web requests to a specific function in your application. Okay, so maybe I know you will not understand, but let me give you a different scenario again. Okay, it's like a traffic controller directing cars to different parts of the city based on their destination. Okay, I hope this one will clarify more. Okay, so to continue again, what actually the route in Flask, this is typically done using the @app. So this is the @app.route decorator, which associates a URL with a Python function. So now this become a Python function, and this is @app.route decorator. So on a web page, for instance, when you visit a website whereby for your first time, if you've not registered, they will ask you to click on the registration and register. So behind the scene, this is what you are clicking on. So once you click on this place, it's going to render, or it's going to display the HTML, or it's going to display the registration page for you. So that is what we are going to do today. So to begin, let's go to our template folder here, click on the new file. We are going to look at how to create a login and a register page. So that is the two things we are going to look at today. So now let's create login.html like that. Let's create register.html also like that. That's beautiful. So now let's go back to app.py. So now this is where we are going to define our route. As I defined earlier, this is where we are going to define our route, which will take the login and the register page. Okay, so let me just hit enter small. So now I will start by saying @app.route like that. Then inside the bracket, I'll say /, then I'll say login. Sorry, first of all, let's define the register. So register like that. Okay, so now let me define a Python function, then I will explain all what actually I'm coding. So define register like that. Okay, so colon, then you say return render underscore template like that. Then we say register.html. Okay, so now we end up by defining a simple register page, but you don't worry, I will explain all this. Let me just finish coding and I will explain it. So at app.route app.route, then like that, then I'll say login, so like that, then define login. Okay, like that. Then I'll say return render underscore template into brackets, which is login.html like that. So now I end up, or I just finish defining these few lines of code that end up by creating a route for register and a login page. That is beautiful. So you can see how easy Flask is. Within a few lines of code, you can create a website using these few lines of code. So now what we'll do next, as I said earlier, what we are going to do next is, once we define our login page, let's go to this place. Now let's start coding the HTML that makes that particular login, whereby if you visit the website, when you click on the login, it's going to display all the things that you will see, which the page will ask you, or when they will ask you to enter your first name and your surname. So that is what we are going to do over here. So to start, let's say dot type is HTML, like that. Then we say HTML. Then inside we say head. So inside the head we say meter. Okay, so another one should be meter, like that, and the last one should be title. Okay, so this title, when you go to a website, once you click on login, you will see the title over there, but I'll show you where actually the title display. So let's put it over the login, like that. Now let's go back to the HTML. Let's say which is the language. So now we have to tell, once we are developing the website, we have to tell the browser that, hey, what the programming or the code we are defining is inside an English. So that is how it's going to interpret it for us. So which is English. We just short it like that. So now let's come here. We see, okay, that's character set. It's going to decode it into UTF-8. You can Google it and see the meaning or more meaning about this particular one. So we say UTF-8, like that. Okay, so here we say HTTP-equiv, then which is equal to, we say X, like that, UA, then compatible, like that. Then we say content, which is equal to IE-H. Okay, so now the last thing we do is a name, which is equal to viewport. Okay, so now we say content, like that. Then we say device, which is equal to width, sorry, we'll say width will be equal to device hyphen width, then comma, we say initial hyphen scale, like that, which is equal to 1.0. okay, so now we finished defining this metadata in our header. Okay, so now the next thing we'll do is put the cursor over there, hit enter. Now we have to define the body. So if I say body, when you go to a website, everything you will see is being defined inside the body. So if maybe, for example, you see a picture displayed, all these stuff has been defined inside the body. So that is what we are going to do next. So let's define it also there. We say body, and let's give a first caption. We are going to give a first caption, which is login. So we say H1 or H3, which is going to be welcome to my login page, like that. Welcome to my login page, which is accepted. Okay, so now when you go to register, we are going to do the same thing. So now let's just continue by defining our form, that if you go to the website, you ask the user to enter the first name and the last name. Let's define it here. Once we finish defining it here, it's the same thing that we are going to do in the registration. So let's finish, then we'll copy, then we'll go and paste it over there instead of doing double typing. So put the cursor over here, then hit enter. So now, if you go to a website, if they ask you to enter your first name and your surname, you are filling, is a form that you are filling. So we are supposed to code all this entry field inside the form. So we say form, like that, then we hit enter. So within the form here, you say input. Okay, so this input, that is what we are going to use to grab the data from the user. So we say type, like that. So what do we want? We just want a normal text from the user. Okay, so we name. So what do we expect from the user? We expect first name from the user. Then let's put a placeholder to maybe to show him that, okay, we want your first name from the user. So placeholder like that. Say please enter your first name, like that. Okay, now let's define another input, which is input. Then we'll say type, we'll say text again. Then we say name, which is going to be surname, like that. And the placeholder should be please enter your surname, like that. So now let's define a button, because when the person or the user finish filling the form, the user will hit a button that will submit the data that the user entered. So now let's define a button, like that. So button, within here, let's put it over there, submit. Now let's come back, or let's go inside the button. We say type, so we have to specify the type of the data we want, or the command we are giving to the button. So we want a type of submit, like that. So that is the command we are giving, the type of command we are giving to the button. So once this data is being submitted, everything inside the form here will be submitted. So that is how it's going to work. So now let's just do on our keyboard, which is Ctrl A, then we copy everything here, then we go back to the register. The reason why we are doing it like that is the same thing that we are defining here, though in the login page we will only ask the user to enter his first name and the username, or either first name and a password, and the registration we might ask of email, we might ask of first name, we might ask of password. But for now, this is just the basic we are doing. So once we continue the video, we'll look at how to get all those data from the user. So first of all, let's just start with the basic one so that you can understand it more. So now let's on the same keyboard, let's paste the data here, which is Ctrl+V on our keyboard. Okay, so now instead in the title here, instead of saying login, now let's change it to register over here. So now we are going to change it to register, like that. So now welcome to my register page, and here we are also accepting first name and surname. That's beautiful. So now we end up by defining a simple HTML page that makes up the register and the login page for us. So now let's go to the backend. So if I say backend, this is where the logic happens. When you go to website, you visit the website after entering your password, and they say maybe by mistake you end up by typing the wrong the wrong password. You see that there's a danger or warning over there that your password is wrong. This particular page is the one responsible to trigger that, or to give you that warning that hey, your password that you've entered is incorrect. So this is the backend that we are coding. So as you can see, it's very easy, or it's just simple by using just few lines of code to create a website. So now we've ended up by defining our register route and login route, and we finish by defining or by creating our login and the register page, which is the HTML2. So now let's start grabbing, as I said from the beginning, now let's start grabbing data from the user, which is the backend. If the user pass, for example, if we go to the website, we might ask the user to enter the first name and the surname. So once the user enter it, who is going to grab it? This is the backend. This is the register route that is going to grab the information from the user and do whatever we've been asked, or this function is being asked for it to be done. So that is how it works. So now what we are going to do here is, first of all, in my previous definition, which is the routing, I say routing is a mechanism that maps incoming web request. So that particular word request. So when you go to the website, the first thing you do is, for example, if you've not registered, they will ask you to register. When you click on the register page, you are asking the website or the server, once you click, you are asking the website, okay, or you are asking the browser, give me the HTML that make up that register page. So where did you click? This is what I talked about earlier. This is the route. So once you hit here or you click here, it's going to trigger this particular function here. This particular function, this Python function. This Python function, whatever command you give to it, is also going to work according to the command you give to it. So as you can see now, the command we give to it, we say okay, when we click the register page, what we want you to do is to give us back the register, the HTML page, that sum up, that make up that particular page for us. So that is what this particular line of code is doing here. So you don't worry if you don't understand. Once we continue the development or we continue the process, you will understand more. So by default, the request I talked about earlier, by default, the HTTP method that is allowed, or the request method that is allowed, is get. So what is it? It's like give me something. Once you click on register, you say okay, give me the HTML page, that sum of that make up that particular page. So that is how it works. Good. But what about submitting the form? We have another also method which is post command. So once you have submitted the form, or once you want to submit the form, we are not going to use the get again, because it's a way of leaving your website to be vulnerable. So you will see what happen if we leave it by saying okay, a get request. So first of all, we are not going to use the request yet. What we are going to do is, now let's run the application. I want you to see the difference. So now if you are using Visual Studio Code, let's go and click on this place, run. Just click that place and wait for it. In a few minutes or seconds, the application is going to run. So as I said in the previous video, once you run it, just come to the console here. This is my console, and the website is running on this particular address, as you can see, running on http://127.0.0.1:5000. When you go to browser, you can type the same address over there. When you hit enter, you see everything that make up that page. So I will not go to the browser. I'll just put the cursor here, send it here slowly, then you click here. So once you click here, it's going to open the home page for you. So as you can see, welcome to my Flask application, or welcome to my home page. Where is it? Now let's go back to our HTML or our code editor. So now as you can see, this is the index. This is the one that make up the home page for us. So welcome to my Flask application, or even let's change it to welcome to my home. Okay, or welcome to my website. I think that one too is also simple. So once you do the modification here, if you go back to the browser and refresh it, you see that it has changed over here. So welcome to my home. So that is how we develop websites. So this one is just a basic. So now what will happen here right now is, let's in the browser here, I will show you later how to go about that. But before that, let's in the browser here, or in the address bar here, put the cursor over here, then on the keyboard just type / then you type register like that, then hit enter. As you can see, once you hit enter, welcome to my register page. So that is the route, or that is the definition I gave to you earlier. Okay, so I hope now you understand. So if I delete this one, or if I erase this one, so I say login, once I hit enter, it's going to give me the login page. So now by default, if you go to app.py, by default, the request that I define in the routing first, the request over there is get request. So now how do we grab the data that user inputs inside the form? For instance, if you go to the login, how do we get the data? Here we are saying please enter your first name, please enter your surname. How do we get the data from there? So now let's go back to our text editor. Okay, so the way we get the data, we are going to use the request. This is a global variable built in with Flask, or that's the global variable that is built inside the Flask, that will be used to grab the contents of the form from the user. Then we can use it to render or display it on the page. So just a simple definition, or maybe you can also Google it and see the meaning of that particular request. So what we do is we say from Flask import Flask, comma, render template. So what we'll do again, we say comma request, like that. So we are going to use that particular request. Okay, so now what we are trying to do here is we are trying to get the data or grab the data from the user, because now let's assume this is our website which is working fine, and we ask the user to go to our website and do the registration. So now once the user, we will not be with the user. So once the user is there, once he or she finishes the registration, whatever data he submits, we at the backend here, which is this place, we want to grab the data from the user. So we'll come here inside the registration, then we are going to say, okay, for instance, we are going to say first name, which is equal to request dot form dot get. So I will define all this in a second. So inside the bracket we will say, okay, what do we want to get from the form that the user is submitting? We want to get the first name from the user, like that. Okay, and the reason why we are using form.get, or we are using .get, is when the user didn't pass anything, the get is going to return none. Okay, so as you can see, once I hover, I put the cursor here, you can see default is none. So if the user didn't specify or put anything over there, we are going to get all the web page is going to, or the entry or whatever is going to return none for us. So now let's enter again. We want to grab the surname, so we say surname, like that, which is equal to request dot form dot get, like that. So we are going to do the same thing, which is the surname, also like that. So as you can see, it's very simple. By using this global variable, as you can see it over there, which is variable. So request, which is a global variable that is built in Flask, that we use to grab the contents of a form from the user. So we end up by saying the first name, which is equal to request dot form dot get, which is the first name. So now let's go back to the register, which is the HTML. So as you can see, we say name. What do we want? We want the name to be the first name and the surname. That is what we want to grab from the back end. But before we proceed, there's something we are supposed to do here. As I explained earlier, I said by default our route here accept only get request. So that get request is like, give me the HTML that sum up, or the HTML that make up that particular page. So this particular route accept by default, it accept get request. So that one you need not to define it over there. If you leave it, you will not get error. But now we want to get the data from the user and we submit it to the back end here. That later will go about by grabbing it back. So now what we'll do is, let's go back to our register page here. Inside the form here, now let's say method, which is equal to post. Okay, so we know our route by default is accepting get request. So now we want to post the data, we want to submit the data to the browser, and from there the browser will send it or will pass it to the backend for us. Okay, so now what we are going to do first here right now is, let's go back to our browser and now let's refresh. Instead of login, let's change it to register. Register, like that. Okay, so get missing one required position argument. Okay, get missing one required position. Sorry, now let me go to this place. Request.form.get missing one type conversion date get missing one required position. Is the argument key. Okay, so So what happened here is first name request dot form dot get. So just give me a minute, let me check. Okay, so what we'll do is, I think, sorry for that mistake. So now let's continue. Okay, so what actually happened is, this is how we are supposed to do it. Okay, this is how we are supposed to do it, or type in. So now let's go back to the register page. So as you can see, we define what actually we want to get, the request we want to get from the user, which is the post request. Okay, so now we are getting the first name and the surname. So if we go to the back end here, that is how we are supposed to define it here. So now let's go back to our browser. Now let's go here /register, hit enter. So as you can see, this is welcome to my register page. So now let's try by entering or by inputting our first name and our sentiments and hit submit and see what is going to happen. So my first name is Joe, my second name is Derek. So now let's hit the submit. So you can see, so what, method not allowed. That is fine, that is what we are expecting to see. So as I defined earlier, which type of request are we sending to the browser, from the browser to the backend? So now if we go back to our route here, we have not explicitly defined the type of request that we are going to accept. But if we go to our HTML here, we are saying, okay, the method that should be allowed here is post request. But if we go to the backend here, we've not explicitly defined here what actually we should expect. And as I said, by default, the route here accept only get request. But right now, inside our HTML, we are saying that, hey, the data we are getting from the user, we want to send it to the back end. We don't want to see it, we want to submit it, or we want to send it to the back end. So now we have to do the same thing to the route here. So how do we do it? We have to specify it here by saying comma, then method, which is equal to a list of get, like that, then comma and post. Okay, so now our route here is ready to accept get, which we are going to ask the web page to give us the HTML that make up either registration or login page. And once we get it, for example, when you click on login, this particular get is the one responsible to give you that particular, how to display the website for you, or the HTML that make up the login page for you. So once you are done entering the data and you want to submit it, this post request, okay, this post method is the one responsible to submit the data, pass it to this particular function, and whatever logic or whatever thing or whatever you ask the function here to do, or whatever logic you give this function, is going to perform on it. So that is how we pass data from the front end here to the back end. So I'll end the video here. In our next video, we will look at how to get this particular first name and the second name, or sorry, and the, let me change it here. This one's supposed to be surname. Sorry, this one's supposed to be surname. So we'll look at how to get the first name and the surname and display it on the web's page here. So right now, if I refresh it, you see now that method not allowed is gone, as you can see. So let me re-enter the data again. Say Joe, then tag. So now let me hit the button. So as you can see, we are not getting any error or method not allow error again. So I'll end the video here. Please consider to subscribe, like and share the video so that we can create more content. Thank you so much.